Okay, and welcome to Virtualize Everything. Today we're going to be doing something that, well, we've done a little bit of before in a couple of different videos, but we're going to be putting together what we learned in them to solve a problem here on my Proxmox server. So here, looking at my Proxmox server's web interface, you can see that I'm desperately running out of storage for backup images, ISO images, and container images. Looking here at the sum, you can see that I've used over 60% of this drive, and just recently I've removed backups and other media from this drive just to create the space to continue working with it. So what we'll be doing today is adding a USB drive for storing this stuff, moving a bunch of this stuff to that USB drive, and then mounting the USB drive into the system in a way that will allow us to connect the file paths. So the quick and easy way to do this is going to be to use the web interface to add this drive to the web interface or to the Proxmox server, all using the GUI. Now, this will serve its purpose for most of you and allow most of you to do everything you want to do. Ultimately, I want to try to go one step further, and that's to keep the default look and functionality of Proxmox. This is for me and only me, because I do a lot of filming and I like to keep things as close to default. So let's look at the first way of doing this and the way that will be most beneficial to you guys. If we head up here to PVE and we take a look at disks, we can see that my USB drive has already come through at 2 terabytes right here. But as I select LVM, LVM thin, directory, and even ZFS, you can't see any of the disk information here. Selecting the disk, we can go ahead and wipe the disk. Now the disk appears with no partitions attached to it. Now we can click Initialize Disk with GPT, and the disk is now got a file system assigned to it. Going to LVM, LVM thin, directory, and ZFS, we will notice that our drive still doesn't show up. So now that we've wiped the disk and assigned it GPT file system, we can go ahead and go down to the one that we want to use, whether it's LVM, LVM thin, ZFS, or directory. Today we're going to be choosing directory because it's the easiest for us to work with later, but all of these will work pretty well for what you want to do. You'll see that unlike our LVM drive here, which doesn't have anything assigned to it and can't have anything assigned to it by default, we can assign LVMs to store backups and ISO images if we're adding an external drive. As I said, because of my future goals, I'm going to choose directory. So I'm going to hit create directory. I'm going to select SDB. I'm going to select the file system, which I'm going to use ext4. I'm going to give it a name. I'll call mine storage. And we're going to select add drive and hit create. So now that the storage creation window has gone away, our task should have created successfully. I am noticing that our drive didn't show up here. So let's go ahead, go up to LVM thin and come back. And yes, we indeed see our drive has been created, and we see that it shows up here on the sidebar, the data center sidebar, and it's ready to be used for any of the above items. If we wanted to fine tune our items, we should be able to come up here to data center, go to storage, select storage, and hit edit. And here at this window, we should be able to select or remove whichever things we don't want it to be used. So if I didn't want to use it for snippets or use it for disk images or containers, I can go ahead, uncheck all of them, press OK. And now when we select the drive, it's going to look a lot more like the local drive, where I can't use it for any of those items. This is going to be perfect for me because I'm going to look to move my backup images and my ISO images off of my main system hard drive and onto this external drive where I have a lot more storage space for them. Okay, so it's 2 days later and we finally have the data moved over to our drive. It was a pretty long and arduous process, and I ended up learning a little bit more about efficiently moving data. So if we bring up Proxmox's web interface's shell terminal here, you can see that I have quite a few files transferred here. And I ended up trying this a few different ways. And if you can't tell, we're also on a different computer because I lost a computer in the process of doing this. So what we ended up doing is finding a way of using a command called rsync to actually move all the files from var lib vz to mnt pve storage, which var lib vc is the initial file storage location that's assigned by default by Proxmox to the local PVE drive for the storage of backups, ISOs, and container templates. MNT PVE storage, if you remember, is where we mounted the new USB storage drive that we added. So you can see that we mounted that here by going back to disks, or actually directory, and you can see the mount path right here where it mounted. I tried using a simple copy paste command for this here, but what happened is I was finding the command got like overloaded, and that's my own words for it, not an error message or whatnot, but it was sitting still for days and didn't have the ability to make the large file transfers. So I ended up trying to do it, one file at a time, but that was pretty arduous for a lot of these backup files and whatnot. So what I ended up doing then was asking ChatGPT for help, bringing it into the situation here, and that's when I learned about the rsync command and actually used it to complete this in a fairly timely manner. I think it was under 4 hours that it took to move all of these files, and there was 53 gigs worth of files here, so I didn't think it was too bad worth of time. So the next step I want to do here on my way to making the storage drive act like the local drive is to clean up our local drive and get rid of like all of our files and everything that we possibly can, which should free up some space in it for future projects or whatever if they need to be done. There's no need to have duplicate files on 2 drives here. That's what backups are for. So the first thing we'll do is clean up these backups that are stored here, and I'm just going to do that by selecting the backup and hitting remove and then pressing yes, and I'll do that for all of these here. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to go to ISOs and I'm just going to select them and press remove. And I'm less concerned about ISOs than I might be for like a backup file, because most of these can be downloaded again pretty easily using either the download from URL link or the upload link. And I'm again doing the same thing for container templates. So now that we have all of this deleted, you can notice our utilization for this local drive has gone from 60 to 18, which is pretty well expected for like an installation of an operating system or whatnot. So I think we've successfully purged out these drives. Now what I want to do is create some type of symbolic link between MNT PVE storage and varlib VX or VZ, and I will be back with you to do those steps. Okay, so I've successfully made a link for the ISO storage, and I'm going to come back and show you how I made that link for the container storage. So if you can see here, back in ISOs, we have all of our files back, and they're identical to the files that are on the storage drive. So let's head to the shell terminal again, and I'll blow it up for you so you can see it a little bit larger. And you can see kind of some of the commands I issued to do this. But what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to use the rmrf command to go ahead and remove the file, and we have to force the remove of the folder because it won't do it with a straight rm-r. So what we'll do is we'll do it for cache here, and we're going to just enter cache at the end of this string. Press enter, and now it's gone. Now we can use the ln-s command, modifying it from the ISO that I demonstrated to you, to cache. And then we're doing the var templates because both the ISO and the cache folders sit inside of that templates folder. So we can hit enter here at this point, and we should be able to go back to our Proxmox web interface and now view our container templates. And something went wrong. So let's head back to our shell and maybe see if we can verify what went wrong. I'm going to copy our path to our templates, and I'm going to use ls to view what's going on here. And you can see that we have two caches. So I definitely spelled something wrong, and that's pretty easy to fix. What we're going to do here is we're going to go back to our rf command, and we're going to go ahead and copy and paste so that we make sure we get the spelling typos for both of them. So we'll remove the first one, and then we'll remove the second one, and then we can run ls, verify that it's not there, and it came back because the system likes to create these, but it should be completely empty. So let's go ahead and see if we're all right and go back to the ln command here right now. We'll delete out the cache. We'll copy the system's spelling again, and we'll paste it in again here, hit enter, and it does give me the file has created. So let's go ahead, paste it in, and then we're going to go up and we're going to create it. And of course it doesn't want to work on video. Always the way. Let's try again. And there we have it. It should have completed that time. So we can now go in, run ls again. We should see the cache folder. And if we put a slash and we paste in the cache spelling, you should see all of the container templates. Now let's head back to the web interface and go back to the templates, and you can see they did show. As you can see here, I did struggle with this a little bit. It's definitely part of learning about setups like this, but now that the two of them are linked together, I should be able to use my local drive for all of my demonstrations, but have everything stored on storage, and storage will exactly mirror it. So if storage gets used, or I want to use storage, it is there. So that's a little bit how I set up my storage drive here, with some symbolic links to increase the storage that I have for ISOs and container templates. I'm not creating the symbolic link for backups because we don't do a lot of demonstration with backups, and I don't write tutorials, so it's not going to confuse my viewers, but you could do the same process with the file path for your backups. I hope you enjoyed this video presentation and enjoyed a little bit more about learning about creating links and just generally messing around with Proxmox. So as always, have a good night, and consider sharing, liking, and subscribing to help Virtualize Everything continue to grow.